Hi everyone, welcome back to the fourth day of our collaboration with Monica, Crafting with Quilling Lady, Monica Paper Mona, and myself for 12 days starting on the 18th of November, which are perfect for the mailbox, so they are not too bulky, not too large, they are perfect for posting. Each day we are working off a different prompt, and today's prompt is a pop-up card. I will start with a simple 5x7 inch card base, but first I'm going to show you what I used to decorate my card. And it is one of the latest magazine box kits by Practical Publishing, and this one was designed by Chloe's Creative Cards. There's loads of stamps, a stencil, embossing folder, and a lovely die set included in that as well, and of course the lovely papers which I will be using. So when it comes to pop-up cards, there's so many different versions of pop-up cards. It's quite a broad term, and I'm delighted to tell you that we all came up with different ideas. So we didn't coordinate in advance, but we ended up making all different pop-up cards. So make sure you hop over to both of the Monica's channels to check out what did they make today. I cannot wait to see their tutorials. I was flipping through the magazine, as you do, and I seen this card designed by Glennis, and it was such a lovely one. I really fell in love with that little scene in there, and I said, what if I created something like this for my pop-up card? So I was definitely inspired by this one. But then I went to look for that the Santa sleigh flying stamp. I could not find it anywhere, and I was so confused. It took me quite a little while to realize that it was actually designed from one of the papers. How cool is that? Well, yeah, it was one of those moments. It really took me a little while to figure this out. So that's what Glennis used on her card, and that's what I'm going to use on mine as well. And I will add my stamped and colored in images to it also. So I'm gonna go off camera, prepare some of the things that I will be using today, and then I'll come back and show you what I prepared. So I'm starting off with a 5x7 inch card base, and I'm working on the inside of the card. I have two pieces of paper cut to 4 7/8 by 6 7/8 of an inch, and I'm just going to glue these down using my cola glue. I'm going to set this aside to set, and I'm going to bring my scoreboard in with some white cardstock. So the first piece that we will be working with measures 4 by 5 inches on the 4 inside score at 1, 2, and 3 inches. And then I need two pieces which measure 4 by 4 3/4 of an inch, and on the 4 3/4 of an inch side score down at 1/2 inch, 1 1/4, and 4 inches. So it's 1/2, 1 1/4, and 4 inches, and do that to two pieces. I already have one prepared. Fold and burnish all those score lines on all three pieces. To do that, I'm just using my scoring tool. Now, this is the piece that we scored first, and this is the one that's going to be glued onto the card first. So this is going to be the middle part of our mechanism. And I will be gluing this inside the card. So I fold it in half and I lay it with the open side towards the score line. So I'm not putting it on top of the score line, I'm just kind of butting it against it, so right next to it, and I'm adding my glue only to the first 1 inch section here on the top. I'm not adding it to both, only up to that first score line. And now I'm going to fold the card base on top of that, the front of my card on top of that. I'm making sure that it's not sitting on the score line, but just right next to it. I'm making sure that I spread the glue out properly, and now I'm going to add my glue onto the other end, so the 1 inch section on the other end of my folded card. And I'm going to close the back of my card on top of it now. You can use double-sided tape here instead of glue for an instant bond. Because I'm using cola glue, it takes a little minute to dry, so I just have to keep waiting a bit before I'm going over to the next step, which would be to glue in these two pieces. Remember, on one end we only scored on one score line, on the other end we had the two score lines. So the end where we have a one score line is the part that is going to be glued onto the piece that we just added to our card. So the two pieces are set like mirror image to each other, but this will make more sense once I'm gluing it in. First, I want to decorate this. So I cut those pattern papers that I showed you at the start to 2 5/8 by 3 7/8 of an inch. But before gluing it onto that pop-up piece, I will want to add some images that I've colored in, and I'm going to show you now. So I went for the lamppost and a car for the one on the right hand side, and I went for Santa's sleigh for the one on the left hand side. And this one on the right is the scene that was inspired by Glynis's card, only I changed my colors because I wanted to keep it with the color scheme that is already on my papers, and the sky is pinkish, lilacish, purplish, whereas everything else is a bluish, turquoisey, tealish tone. So I stuck with those colors for my images. The reason I want to glue these onto my paper first, because the lamp post will have some overhanging bits, and I want to be able to cut those away before gluing my whole scene onto the pop-up piece. I stamped these images with VersaFine Onyx Black ink, heat embossed with clear Wow embossing powder, and just colored in with my alcohol markers. And as I said, I was trying to keep the colors to the same colors that are already on those lovely papers. I love how Glynis did everything on hers with red, so the red card, the red bow, like real Christmassy colors. But I didn't want to introduce that new color because then I would have needed to add something else to go with the red. And as we said, these are easy to postcards. I really needed this to fold flat. So I didn't want to bring in any gems or anything like that on the inside. So in here, I'm gluing my paper onto the second piece, and then I'm going to bring in Santa's sleigh. And for Santa's sleigh, I just stuck with the colors that I used on the first two images. I just left the same alcohol markers on my table, and I just didn't want to introduce again any new colors. So now to glue this in here, I'm going to add glue just to that 3/4 of an inch of a section in there. And I am going to again push it against that middle piece and fold my card on top of that. This way I'm making sure that it's going to be glued where it should be going. Now, for the other side, I'm only going to add my glue to the 1/2 inch of a section. I'm going to fold both of these sections underneath and fold my card over it. This way I know that it will fold completely flat and it will open up to that nice pop-up scene. Again, the same, 3/4 of an inch of a section, I added glue to it. I am making sure it's in the same position as the one on the other side. I want this to be symmetrical. Folded my card over it, applied some pressure for the glue to grab. On the other end, I'm adding my glue to the 1/2 inch of a section, but folding both of those tabs underneath, and again folding my card on top of that. Now when I open this, it will reveal that gorgeous scene. For the front of the card, I wanted to keep the decorations fairly simple because I expect this to be displayed opened up with that pop-up feature scene showing. So I didn't want to add too much to the front of this, but I wanted to add something. So I've cut a piece of paper from the paper pack to 4 7/8 by 6 7/8, and again this one has that lovely snowflake theme. And then from the paper pack, again I die cut a sentiment using my circle nesting dies, and this one says wishing you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And then I also cut out a slightly larger white circle. I layered them on top of each other, and then I just glued it onto the middle of my card front. And that finishes my card off. I didn't want to add anything extra, any bulky, so there's no foam pads on the front of this card, just the plain sentiment, and I think that looks nice. I'm measuring in here because the postal is up to 5 millimeters in the UK for a small letter, and this one is just a teeny tiny bit over 2 millimeters thick. So the card base that I used was 250 GSM card, so it wasn't one of my heavier weights. But because I used the collage, there's so many layers, this is such a lovely, nice and sturdy card. Make sure you go over to both of the other ladies' channels as well. I will have their videos linked in the description box below. I know they created something wonderful again, so make sure you check those out too. If you haven't yet done so, subscribe to our channels, leave us comments, and hit the like button if you like what you see. And if you would like to join in with our challenge, just post on your social media using the hashtag Postmas2024. We would be delighted to see your makes. Also, leave us a comment if you have posted anywhere to be sure that we are aware of it. I hope to see you back tomorrow with our next prompt, which I know is going to be a very lovely one too. Until then, bye! Thanks for watching!